Trump, they sent Trump to the hospital.
The second we found out at 7 o'clock this morning, the tested the rabbi and he said he could put his name. He said somebody else wants to mention his name, that's okay.
You turn this light off?
He said it was not my name.
All right, I realized the whole time I was talking, nobody could hear me. So, you know,
Very interesting, though.
I think sometimes that is my experience these days, just in general. You know, that's it. Lovely to see all you guys, and again, an incredible gratitude and celebration of my incredible partner here, of Cantor Lauren, and the job that she did over the holidays, which I know all of you share very much. But you know, before I have to mute everybody, let's give her the round of applause. You know,
it was so beautiful. I could cry. It was so beautiful to listen to.
Yep, there you go. There you go. Usually they say that about my sermons, but it's the other direction.
Move over here, right?
They were very special.
All right, so good Shabbos, everybody, and Chag Sameach, as they say. I'm going to mute everybody. Forgive me for doing so. All right, good. So, Cantor Lauren, I think you can unmute yourself, which is good, and we're going to get started in just 1 second. Put myself over here. Everybody see me, hear me okay? So we're going to begin our service, as we always do, with our candle blessings. And just a reminder again that it is the beginning of our wonderful holiday of Sukkot. So we'll add Shel Yom Tov after we say Shel Shabbat. And there are a few other places throughout our service which will acknowledge the uniqueness of our time, in which there is a crossing over of Shabbat and of the holiday itself. But same idea, if you want to follow along, we're on page 120. It won't say Yom Tov, but you'll just trust me that it's there. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat v'yom tov. Amen. And now we'll switch it over to Cantor Lauren as she leads us in an opening song. Turn now to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page. Lechu nerahanena, lechu nerahanena, lechu nerahanena, ladonai. Lechu nerahanena, lechu nerahanena, lechu nerahanena, ladonai. Naria, Naria, letzur ishenu, nekad mafana betodah. Naria, Naria, Letoi Shenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Ladonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Ladonai. Turn now to page 131 and back to Cantor Lauren. Turn now to page 132 at the bottom of the page, Or Zarua. Or Zarua lahatzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua lahatzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua latzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua latzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. We turn to page 134 and back to Cantor Lauren. We turn now to page 135, Romamu. Turn now to page 138, L'cha Dodi, and again, a reminder that we're going to do the first, second, fifth, and ninth stanzas. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shemu tiferet v'liptila. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh miketem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri kiva orech umiuri uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Bohi v'shalom ateret balam gam b'simecha u'vetzolam toch emunei am sekula. Bohi chala L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. And now we'll turn it back over to Cantor Lauren as we turn to page 140, Tzadik Katamar, where the Hebrew indents in the middle of the page.
Tzadik Katamar yifrach kerez balvanon yizkeh Tulim mevet Adonai mechatrot Eloheinu yafrichu or yenun beseva Deshenim veranim yeyu lehagir ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo
We turn now to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash meraba בעלמא דברכיותי בימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמרה במבורך לעולם עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשו בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירה בעלמא ויאמרו amen.
We turn now to page 146 for Baruch Hu. Turn now to page 148. We'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges their stars and the heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המריב הרבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, ישוכנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם לעולם עד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה. מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We turn now to page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Let's turn together to the top of page 157 and we'll read. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together, and turning to page 158 as we turn it back to Cantor Lauren. We turn now to page 161, Hashkiveni.
And understanding among us.
Turn to page 162, Vishamru at the very top of the page. Vishamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם, עיני ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת וינפש. In a moment, we're going to start the Amidah, and just a reminder, since it is the beginning of the holiday of Sukkot, it is the festival Amidah on page 468. Again, page 468. Cantor Lauren, as always, will help us to begin our process of prayer, but the rest is up to you and to use the time as you see fit. Just a reminder again that beginning on 468, as you get into the Amidah, you will notice a few places where it says on the holiday of Sukkot or several other possible options. So pick the ones that relate to Sukkot and make this time as meaningful as possible. Cantor Lauren, I'll turn it over to you.
I
Turn now to page 371 as we offer our Misha Berach, our healing prayer. In a moment, I'll read a list of those that we are thinking of that are in our community and connected to our community, but I invite you, of course, as always, to add any names to the chat that you feel comfortable, and if you don't feel comfortable sharing names, to hold the names of your loved ones in your heart as we offer these prayers. So as I said, we'll begin by thinking of first those in our community and connected to our community that we know who are in need of healing. Mitch Racklin, Jane London, Toby Spitz, Steve Popkin, Catherine Guarino, Emunah Chava, Sandra Furman, Morty Lynn, Phyllis Katz, Raina Walsh, Deirdre Klein, Harav Tuvia Avraham Bet Asher Velea, Stephanie Skit, Nancy DeMate, Andrew Lesser, Jean Ben Sadoun, Gloria Tardash, Judy Stern, Miriam Cornfield, Roz Brody, Chana Ruth Bat Sarah, Marlise Silverberg, Louis Davidson, Susan Spruce, Fagel Tzipora Bat Elisheba Bat Sarah, Richard Gambino, Michelle Sawicki, Idle Basha Bat Yitzchak, Tzvi Menachem Ben Chaim, Rivka Bat Devora, Amy and Gavin Tucker, Janice Kurz, David Dowling, Neil Elliott and Eileen Rosen, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Ben Sion Ben Moshe, Lorraine Danis, Buddy Kasov, Shelley Newmark, David Kyle Klotman, Rivka Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Chana, Moshe Eliezer Ben Sivia, Peretz Ben Yehuda, Leah Bat Naomi, and Tzipora Bat Avraham de Sarah. And we, of course, add all the names that have been shared in the chat, and we'll turn back to Cantor Lauren as we offer our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing. Thank you, Cantor Lauren. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Chag Sameach and Lashana Tova. It's amazing and a relief to be able to say that, to be on the other side of the holidays. And I'll offer more gratitude and thanks at the end of the service, but just very quickly again to thank all of you for being a part of our high holidays, for supporting Cantor Lauren and myself through them all, and really, you trust me, all the feelings, all the sentiments, all the words are very much felt and appreciated. So thank you. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit, and it's something of a stream of consciousness, so you'll have to forgive me if it's not terribly polished, but sometimes the challenge of, as things emerge in real time, we don't always have the time to contemplate and to think about and to parse out every single word that we might offer. But as I imagine most of us are thinking of, the news of the day, at least in our part of the world, in this country, was the news that the President, the First Lady, and a few other people around the President, the First Lady, who have ultimately contracted the virus and are dealing with the repercussions of that. And as you might imagine, this set off something of an existential conversation within the rabbinate, or at least the rabbinate that I am familiar with, and I should say clergy in general, as to how one responds to that in a Jewish fashion. In other words, the existential question is about prayer, and about prayer in particular of healing. And for those, in matter of fact, and I don't think it's a surprise to any of you who know me quite well, who have issues with the president, who have issues with the president's administration of the role, and ultimately speaking, have many political differences that are a cause of considerable strife amongst the country, amongst individuals, and on a very personal level. And when I woke up, my initial reaction was something of a harumph, which I'm somewhat more ashamed to say as the day has gone on. But in other words, that a person for whom I do not have a great amount of affection, what is one's sort of initial feelings about that? And I won't go into the personal details of what was going through my mind, but simply to say that my first initial reaction, which oftentimes is not what I hope to be my eventual decision about things, was based in, or I should say, was not based in Jewish thought. I'll put it that way. It was very firmly rooted in me personally and my feelings personally. So as often as my case as a rabbi, my next thought, once that first initial thought comes in, is to add the important layer of what does Jewish wisdom say about situations like this. And let's take the president and the first lady out of the equation and simply say, what does one do when there is somebody for whom we have a strained relationship and we find out that bad news has come to them? How do we respond to that bad news? And how do we do it in a Jewish fashion? And I probably would not be surprising to you to hear many of my colleagues who said that they would not offer a prayer of healing, and not my colleagues, but on the rest of Facebook world who in fact took it a step further and who wished really quite plainly harm to come to. And this is where I started to see the wheels falling off and started to think about the real, as I said, existential challenges of a moment like this. So there are many different sources to pull from. I found one that I thought was really quite a telling story. It comes from Masechet Brachot from the Talmud 10a, if you want to look it up. And it tells the story of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Meir's wife, Bruria, who at some point or another, I should teach about, or someone should teach about, herself being a remarkable female presence in the Talmud, in the lives of the rabbis. But especially Rabbi Meir and Bruria had this remarkable, really far ahead of their time equivalent relationship where they respected each other and respected each other's positions. So there's a story told of Rabbi Meir who lived in a neighborhood where there were a bunch of people who were causing him all sorts of trouble. And really the way that the Talmud describes it is misery and anguish. And so once Rabbi Meir, in his anguish, prayed for ultimately that these people would die, went to God and said, God, please, make these people who are causing me such anguish, I would like for them, to die. So his wife Bruria says to him, on what grounds do you think that such a prayer is permitted? Okay, now remember, Rabbi Meir is not a small character, right? This is a significant rabbi in the history of the Talmud, in the history of the Jewish people, presumably an incredibly pious one, a considerate one. And here he is actively praying for the demise of people who are causing him anguish and concern. And his wife steps in and says that this is not an acceptable path. What you have chosen to do is not acceptable. And she quotes an interesting basis for this. And it requires a little bit of a caveat, which I'll explain afterwards. She says, what makes you think, right, this prayer is permitted? Is it because the verse states, and she's quoting from a earlier verse in Torah, let the sinners, chataim, cease from the earth? But she explains that it is written, right, it should be in Hebrew written chotim, if you were saying sinners. But instead it says chataim, which is a different, same root, but different formulation in Hebrew grammar, which implies that it's not the sin itself, but that which causes one to sin, namely the evil inclination. And furthermore, she says that at the end of that verse, it continues, and let the wicked be no more. Since the sins will cease, there will be no more wicked men. So what is she saying? You took that to mean that they should simply cease to be, right? That the verse from the Torah is saying that wickedness should be wiped off of the face of the earth. And Rabbi Meir's translation of that was to simply say that they should no longer exist. And Bruria says, no, that's not what the prayer is about. That's not what it's saying. That's not what the Torah is telling you. It's telling you that you should pray for the wickedness aspect of life to disappear, right? That whatever evil things are going on, whatever harm is being caused, you can pray for the end of that. Okay, but don't pray for the end of the person. Because if you pray for the end of the person, you are taking life into your hands. And so she says, rather what you should be doing is to pray for them that they should repent. And ultimately speaking, if they do so, then the verse will be realized in the end anyway. Because if the wicked ultimately change their ways, there will be no more wicked people. And ultimately speaking, he prays for them, and that's the outcome. So the caveat to end of this, of course, is that this was not a political commentary, not intended to be, right? How one determines the wickedness or the evil inclinations or whatever it is of the political machinations of this president or any other president is entirely up to them. It is not my position to say, at least in a direct kind of way, what that is. Whether I have issues, again, most of you will not be surprised to know that I do. Okay, do I want those issues to go away? Do I want the world that we are living in to be a more just and considerate and compassionate one? Yes. Do I hope that things will change in this country? Yes. Okay, but there is a fine line between praying for change and praying for the end of, behaviors that lead to death and destruction and strife, and another thing entirely to pray for somebody who is sick to not recover. And I think that that's a very important distinction for everyone to consider, myself included. Okay, started the conversation by saying how I felt. I'm going to put it in the eye, right? That my thinking and my feelings on this have changed a tremendous amount once I added, as I said, the layer of Judaism to the conversation. And I think it's an important piece, as I talked about on Yom Kippur, that if we're going to get to a point in which we can talk to each other in a civil discourse about what is wrong with this country and what needs to be fixed, and even to disagree about it, that we have to be very careful of the cliff that we can fall off of without even thinking about it when we become callous towards other people, right? Rabbi Leon Morris, my predecessor, our teacher, wrote a very interesting piece which you ought to read that is along these lines, which is, again, sort of considering the fact that we have a danger as a society of devolving into a lack of humanity, a lack of basic humanity. And that, again, whatever I may feel, whatever you may feel about the president and the president's administration and what is going on, I do not believe that Judaism thinks that we should be praying for the demise of individual people, even those that we disagree with. And I think we need to be very careful about what it is that we use prayer for and what prayer is ultimately used for us as a people. It is really meant to, again, focus us on the most essential qualities of how we are meant to live our lives. And while there may be, on occasion, if you look hard enough, prayers, sections of the Torah in which there is a beseeching of God to help and to eliminate our enemies and those that wish to do us harm, it does exist. But the vast majority of Jewish prayer, vast majority of it, has nothing to do with any of that. It's actually asking for its complete antithesis, which is to give us the wisdom and the compassion and the understanding of justice and the ability to act upon those things. And that is where I think we should be focusing. And that if there are people who are struggling right now against this illness, regardless of their background, regardless of who we are in relationship to them, that we should not be praying for that illness to take their life. And if we can muster the strength, I would say even moral courage, to pray on behalf of somebody for whom we have terrible disagreement, in the same way that Rabbi Meir in the story changes his perspective on those that were really causing him a great amount of harm, I think that, to me, is the proper path, the path that Judaism teaches us. So I realize tonight we veered into some places in which, my personal may overlap with my role as rabbi. If I crossed any of those lines that offended you, I apologize. But I hope that this will be at least a means by which to consider and to discuss. And on a personal level, I hope and pray that both he and his wife, the First Lady, will recover, and those in their universe will recover. And quite frankly, anyone who is struggling against the virus this point will recover. And to do everything that we can to support that possibility, in both in tangible ways and in the intangible way of prayer. So with that, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a Chag Sameach. And I will ask you now to please rise as we turn to page 586, Aleinu L'Shabeach. Aleinu L'Shabeach, Ladon HaKol, Latet Gedula Liotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kegoyei HaRatzot, Velo Samanu Kemishpechot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor aleinu kechol hamonaham, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. We'll now turn our hearts and thoughts to those who have passed, first by beginning to think of those who have passed in recent months. Nancy Fisher, Saul Fisher, Edwin Friedman, Sandra Friedman, Lois Herr, Philip Idone, Laura Kurz, Meyer Osofsky, Madge Parcher, Vera Shaps, Lisa Schneidman, Norma Small, Marjorie Weinberg Berman, and Marvin Weiss. We also mark the artsites that occurred during the last week for Dr. Paul Abrams, Jean Benjamin, Margaret Benjamin, Joseph Barak, Yvonne Cohen, Alan Cornfield, Herman Eagle, Joe Ferrente, Ben Gauze, Ruth Golden, Joan Gilbert, Harriet Goldstein, Margie Haddad, Georgette Huberman, Ida Kaplan, Sally Klein, Esther Cosberg, Joseph Kunkin, May Levine, Jeanette Lowe, Milton Maisel, Fanny Peskowitz, Mary Reich, Bernard Radetsky, Dinah Matlin Radetsky, Julius Scheinert, Clara Simon, Rose Slutsky, Katie Spitz, John Strong, and Shira Zeller. If you have a name of someone for whom you're saying Kaddish that we didn't mention, and you'd like to mention their name in the chat, to do so now, and then I'll invite those who are in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please rise if you feel comfortable and to join me on page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayichon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha berichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. If you're standing, you can be seated. Shabbat shalom, everybody. And just a few announcements. It's a shorter list than it's been for weeks, I promise you, but some important things. Of course, as I said, Shabbat shalom and Chag Sameach, as we celebrate our wonderful holiday of Sukkot. We'll have our Shabbat and Sukkot Festival morning service live streamed tomorrow from the sanctuary at 10 o'clock. And then we will have our Torah study, which as the beginning of the month is our Torah study using a women's Torah and commentary. And both Ruth and Leah have actually put together a really amazing program, a little bit different than our normal process. So if you haven't joined us before for Torah study or for women's Torah study, please come. It's really a great experience, great people. Normally this time of year, we would be out in the Sukkah ourselves together, which we can't quite do. But I think I'm going to prop my computer up in there, so at the very least, one of us will be in there as we're studying. But as some of you hopefully got an email from me earlier, what we have done in order to make sure that everyone who wants to and is able to safely observe the mitzvah of Leshev Basukah, of sitting and eating at least a meal in the Sukkah during the week, that we have set up a smaller than our normal size sukkah. We will put the Arba Minim, the 4 species, together in a weatherproof container that can be used at any time. We have set up in such a way that there is cleaning stuff that you can use to then clean before you sit down and use and after. And the only key piece is that we have set up a sign up for slots of time during Chol HaMoed, during the intermediate days of the festival. That way we make sure that really it's meant for either an individual or an individual pod or a family, and that's it. So don't invite 20 people over to come and meet you there. But if you are in a group of people with whom you have already been in some socially distant and responsible fashion, that you can all ultimately be in there. But we want to keep limited size and really do our very best to make sure that nothing gets spread around. So again, we're on the honor system here, people. I can trust you, but please just follow all the instructions as they are. If you have questions, let me know. If you didn't get the email, let me know. If you don't know how to use the Sign Up Genius, let me know. I'll walk you through it all. We want to try to help everybody who wants to observe the holiday in the best possible way. Just a reminder also that our normal Oneg Shabbat that happens after services will still happen tonight. It's slightly different. We'll call it a Oneg and a Seudah. I'm going to go sit out in the sukkah by myself, but at the very least, as I said, give people a sense of what it looks like in there. So if you have a little bit of energy after our Zoom service is done, just hop on the Oneg Shabbat service, and I hope to see you then. Just a reminder of a few upcoming things. On Monday, Hebrew School resumes at 4 o'clock. The Social Justice Committee will have its 5 o'clock meeting. And I don't know if Myra's on the call tonight, but I believe that Myra's Musar class is at 7 o'clock. On Wednesday, the B'nai Mitzvah class is back in session at 4. Again, all of this stuff online. And also a heads up that next Sunday, October 11th at 11 a.m., we're doing the mitzvah of gleaning at Pike's Farm in Sagaponack. If you're interested in supporting that effort, and you can in a socially distant and safe fashion, that again is October 11th at 11. Just email Shelly directly, or if you have questions, to let me know. Reminder, of course, that the end of Sukkot is the holiday of Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, which were sort of merged together. So again, Friday night services next week and Saturday morning. This is one that's really a tough one to replicate on Zoom. Simchat Torah is known for dancing with the Torahs, being jubilant, all of those wonderful things. Your rabbi is still thinking of ways to try to impart some of the unique aspects of the celebration of our reading of the Torah. Again, it may be different this year, but at least we've established something of a track record, the Cantor and I, of trying to make the experience still meaningful, even with its challenges. So, give me a week and I'll come up with something, I promise. And last is that on October 19th, we haven't sent the e-blast out about it yet, but I know that this has been a conversation that is a concern for all of us for, quite frankly, a very long time, and seems to be increasingly a concern again, which is the rise of anti-Semitism. And so we've been lucky enough that through connections with the American Jewish community, the AJC, through one of our co-presidents, Ron Klausner, we've arranged for a guest speaker to help facilitate a conversation between me and him on the realities of anti-Semitism today, the factors that are feeding its rise or its prevalence or its prominence, I should say, and also what we hope will be some concrete steps that we as a community and we as individuals can take. And as we've done a lot of work over the summer in trying to identify, challenges in our society that need our attention and our addressing, we can't forget those that also directly impact us. So this will be an important conversation. It will be open to all. And again, this would be October 19th, and you'll get more information this week. So just put a little mark in your calendar. So with that, just a reminder, even though I know I just brought up a heavy subject and tonight had some heavy subjects in it, one of the main important characteristics of Sukkot. Does anybody remember? You can yell it even though you're all muted. What's one of the main obligations of Sukkot? Really all festivals, but being joyful. Being joyful. It's the one we can all take some hold over, okay? So this is a week where you want to try to find opportunities to bring joy into your life, and equally important, bring joy into other people's lives, okay? Pick up the phone if you can't see people, call them, right? Wish them a Chag Sameach. Send them a card, do all sorts of things, right? You'd be amazed at what you can do to bring joy into other people's lives. And my guess is if you do that for others, the same will come back to you in some form. And one of the most joyful things to me is the end of my talking and hearing Cantor Lauren's wonderful voice. So we're going to turn it back to her for a closing song, and then we will do our festival Kiddush. And as I said, I'll welcome anyone who wants to join me virtually in the Sukkah. And again, any questions over the week about accessing the sukkah or using the lulav and etrog, just call on your rabbi. I'd be happy to help. All right, so Cantor Lauren, we'll put it back on you. Okay, if anyone wants to follow along, if you have your own wine or grape juice handy, we're on page 386 for the Festival Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'am v'romemanu mikol ha'ashon v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'atiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'yahava Shabbatot lemenucha u'moadim l'simcha chagim uzmanim l'sason et yom ha'shabbat hazeh את יום החג הסוכות הזה, זמן שמחתנו, מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים. ושבת מועדי קודשך, באהבה וברצון, בשמחה וששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת בישראל והזמנים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. You can unmute yourselves if you want to. Wish each other Chag Sameach. At least I think you can.
I
Chag
did.
Sameach,
There
everybody.
you go. All
Yeah.
right.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, round of applause again for Cantor Lauren. I don't know whether everybody else's windows are the way that mine are. So from the way it looks, I'm
wonderful.
pointing
Lauren
at
is
her.
muted. Neil is muted.
Neil is muted. I didn't have any. I didn't do it. I promise.
Marilyn is muted.
All right, you can unmute yourselves however you want to. You know,
Neil
tell
is
her how great she is.
Chag
Neil,
Sameach,
you're
everybody.
still muted, Neil.
Hashemach.
Yeah.
Lauren, you were spectacular.
Who said that?
Daddy heard.
Everybody said it. Everybody said it.
I
Oh.
heard great.
No.
Marilyn,
you
you're still
stay on
muted.
and get.
Am I unmuted now?
I'm gonna jump off and get
Yes.
started in the sukkah. I'll be there in a minute.
Am I unmuted?
Everybody.
Yes, you're mute. Yes.
Marilyn is muted. Marilyn is muted.
Wow.
Are we still muted?
No, you're on.
No.
No,
No.
I want to introduce my sister and brother-in-law who are on this Shabbat service tonight. They like the Holy Day services so much, they came back for more.
Okay.
Where are they?
Where are they?
What are their names?
They're there. They can hear, but they didn't.
Oh, they
Tina, are you there?
All right, Marilyn, you're on. You're good.
Took a while.
So we just introduced them.
Very good.
Hi.
Oh, I guess the rabbi left, huh?
Okay, he's going to set up.
No, I just introduced you, but you weren't there.
Okay, let's go on the other Zoom.
Hey, Marilyn.
Lauren is
Hi,
now
how are you?
How are you?
Good, you?
Good. Hey, Julie. Hey, Julie's there. Is that Julie?
Julie.
Yes.
That's Julie.
Hey.
You hear us, Lauren?
Barbara.
Yeah.
You all well?
He's a very good rabbi.
Nicole, you're still muted, just in case you want to know. Okay.
Hey, Marcia.
Yeah, Masha, Masha.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Warren.
Hey.
Shabbat shalom.
Joyful.
Now you all have to go on
Hey.
the other one, the rabbi. You have to go on the other one and see the rabbi.
Exactly.
Okay.
See you in a bit.
Chag Sameach. Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.
Right.
Everybody.
Bye, Neil.
Hi.
So usually Lauren goes on the other two, so
No,
she's
no, someone from
knock us
the
all
temple.
out. So
They unmute.
hello, Jerry and Kathy.
Hey.
Bye.
Hakshemeh.
Okay, bye.
Wow.
Marilyn, I'm going to send you something to watch later.
Okay.
I sent it to Angie already.
Okay. See you soon.
All right.
What
Bye,
did she
everybody.
say?
See you in a bit.
Bye. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
It's so easy. It's
Done anything exciting?
No, but there's nobody playing. There's nobody else. I got off at 10:24. You got 11.
Lauren, your voice is absolutely exquisite and exquisitely trained. We are just so thrilled to hear you and
There's
to
Richard
enjoy
Lynch.
the services with.
There's Richard
Thank
Lynch.
you.
He's only for saying that.
There's to everyone, Richard Lynch.
He hasn't gone to the other party yet. Is anybody? I'm clicking on the other Sukkah thing. I guess he hasn't gotten there yet.
Neil, we're waiting for you to answer.
I'm here.
What were the responses to?
My sister just called me to say how wonderful the service was.
Nice.
An empty chair? Whose empty chair is that? Marilyn.
Marilyn Lou.
Marilyn Lou. That's a wonderful chair.
Looks comfy.
So I think that Rabbi Dan is just setting up the other call for the oneg in the sukkah. So if you guys want to pop onto the other one, I'm just going to keep this open just in case he hasn't. Setting
I
up.
went to the other one and it's just host has another meeting in progress still.
Okay. So I'm wondering if it's this one. So I'm gonna end this call and I'll hopefully see you all at the oneg.
Okay, sounds good.